This is Excalibur, 1981, directed by John Borman. So it's the Dark Ages, and there's no single king, and everyone's fighting to become the king. So there's a battle going on right now, and tangled up in it all is the wizard Merlin, and he's helping out King Uther here, who's one of the people in the battle. The other guy is the Duke of Cornwall, who I'm going to call Cornwall. And Merlin tells Uther to show the sword, Excalibur, which he had given him earlier. And he shows the sword off to Cornwall, and Cornwall is scared, so he yields, and they agree to a truce. And they say, "Hey, come over to my place." Cornwall says, "Come over to my place." And they have a little blood oath, become bros. But Cornwall says, "Let me get the party started." He says, "You may be king, but my wife is hella hot." And his wife Igrayne, his beautiful wife Igrayne, does some spin moves while Cornwall drinks. And King Uther is amazed and decides he's super into her. So into her that he decides to siege Cornwall's castle. Cornwall yells that it won't work and he'll never get Igrayne. So King Uther starts to ask where Merlin is so he can help. And he says, "I need one night with her, Igrayne. She's so beautiful." And he says, "Just do some magic shit. Help me out, man." And Merlin says, "Okay, but you gotta give me something that I want to." And Uther says, "It's worth it. I'm horny." And he swears on his sword that he'll give Merlin what he wants. And King Uther ends the siege and starts to leave. And Cornwall looks down, says they've given up. Great. And he hatches a plan to attack them that night in their camp. And later that night, Merlin and Uther go back to the castle, and Merlin starts doing some magic stuff. And Cornwall leaves the castle because it's night. And he's going out to attack Uther's camp. And Merlin tells Uther to get on this horse because I'm going to turn you into the Duke. And Igrayne will think you're her husband. And so Uther, disguised as Cornwall, rides over, and they think it's the Duke, so they open the gate. He's disguised right now. Meanwhile, the real Cornwall is in Uther's camp. And his camp's like, "Oh shit, it's Cornwall." And some birds fly out and smack Cornwall on the head, and he falls off his horse, and he falls on some spikes. So meanwhile, the disguised King Uther as Cornwall enters Cornwall's chambers, where there's Morgana and Igrayne. Igrayne tells Morgana, who's having a bad dream, that it's okay. Morgana was worried about her dad, but Igrayne says, "Look, he's right there. Look, there's your dad." Little does she know that's Uther in disguise. And right in front of her daughter, Uther kisses Igrayne. And meanwhile, this is the Cornwall. He's dying. And Uther starts to have sex with Igrayne in a full suit of armor while magically disguised. And Merlin basically shakes his head. He doesn't like what's happening. The next day, Cornwall's body returns, and Igrayne is confused because she saw him just last night. And Morgana is sad that her father is dead. Fast forward to the same castle, where now Uther is the ruler because Cornwall died. There's a baby, and it's Igrayne's baby, and Uther wonders, is it mine or Cornwall's? And that's a pretty good question, honestly. And Igrayne says she thought it was Cornwall's, but he was already dead. And Uther has a little smile on his face because he knows something. And he decides he likes the baby, so he's gonna be the baby's dad. But in comes Merlin, creeping up on him. And he says, okay, you promised me something, Uther. Give me the child. And Uther's like, fine, take the devil child. And Igrayne's like, no. And Morgana, while Merlin is leaving, asks him, are you that baby's parents now, the sole parents? And he just leaves with the baby and goes into the woods. And Uther starts chasing after him. I want my son. But there's a guy hiding in the bushes randomly. And he jumps out and attacks Uther and knocks him off his horse and hurts his shoulder. And Uther's bodyguards are like, oh shit, ambush. Uther's like, uh-oh, Excalibur. And he takes it and runs away with it. He doesn't want someone to steal his sword. So he's running across a river, and some people start chasing him. And he thinks he's going to die, so he jams Excalibur into a rock. And then he stumbles away to go die. And the bad dudes who ambushed him start trying to pull it out of the rock, but they aren't able to. Neither of them is. And Merlin explains to Arthur that he's the one who's going to be able to pull the sword out of the stone eventually. End scene.